Hello everybody and welcome back to another round of the Tail Racing Ring Runners in Season 11. It's time for the Porsche Cup class as we enter the second half of the year. We're a couple of cars that might well be a little bit more suited to the Nordschleife after the madness of LMP1 last week. I've got to say I thoroughly enjoyed it, but these drivers will be pretty pleased to come back down to earth just a little bit. I get the feeling here today. Myself and Larry, James Parfitt will take you through the action as always. As I say, James, thoroughly enjoyed LMP1s last week actually. But these are more like the kind of cars you're used to seeing around this circuit.
Yeah, I fully enjoyed LMP1s. It was a little bit of a throwback. We saw some great liveries, the Audi and the Porsches battle. It was amazing. And obviously Corey Stas taking the win in the pros with Stephen Johnson, I believe it was, if my memory serves me correctly. I have slept since then. Taking the win in the AM. So I think this is going to be very, very interesting. And I'm going to find this quite fascinating how they go here with these cars. Don't forget, driving aids is a minimum.
Yeah, they are very much to a minimum on these cars, so worth bearing in mind. The qualifying session has just drawn to a close, so we'll bring up the standings as the race session now begins, and we won't break our graphics. So let's have a look at where we are after 6 rounds of our championship, starting with the pros. Oh, hello.
No, hold on. I don't know. The standings haven't.
Oh, maybe the standings aren't working. Well, anyway, I can just read them out to you if not going to pop up on the screen. Evan Crutchroad is the current championship leader. There we go. With 20 points over Corey Stas after his win last week. Dave Mull then rounds out the top 3 with Dan Kosick and Dean Diltz in 5th place. Only 33 points. This is on total points, by the way. 33 points separating the top 5 is pretty close. David Andes and Pat Misek, not that far behind in 7th. And then you get to those who have missed rounds so far this season, starting with Matt Green, who's in 8th. In the AM standings, Stephen Johnson's now leading in terms of total points, ahead of Anthony Solomon, Matt Van Horn, and Scott Sadler. Those 3 covered by just 1 point at the moment. Remembering, though, that Sadler hasn't been here for 2 weeks. He is here today, though, and he's qualified in 11th, as we will see in a moment, with this starting grid ready for this 7th round. Matt Green has taken the pole ahead of Corey Stas with Dean Diltz and David Anders on row 2. It's Dan Kosick and Dave Mull rounding off row 3 with Pat Misek in 7th ahead of Stephen Johnson. Anthony Solomon, Chase Petterjohn round out the top 10. Sadler may be slightly disappointed with 11th, and he's actually going to start from pit lane alongside Hernandez. Behind them, though, Amico and Van Horn will start on the grid like normal. Not sure quite why Hernandez and Sadler have decided to do that, start from the pit lane. I don't think they've been made to by any sort of penalties or ruling or whatever. But anyway, they are in the server. They're just not on the racetrack yet.
Very interesting. I wonder if that's because they just can't get on with the car. I don't know. I'm going to find this quite fascinating, I think, because I think this is going to bring us some interesting scenarios and a lot of Porsche maybe doing Porsche things here, because I think these drivers are going to still, some of these might drive these like they're GT3s, and we know full well they're not.
Yeah, well, that's true that they are different to GT3s, but feel pretty similar in places. This car has been used pretty much every season, really, since we've certainly since we've started broadcasting the Tail Racing Ring Runners. Anyway, Jason Hightower was the winner, unsurprisingly, last time because he won almost every round last season. And eventual AM champion Pat Misek won in the AM class as well, just a position ahead of Steve Coubet, and then Tim Watchow, who rounded out the top 3 on that day in the AM standings. It's a car we continually come back to, and sometimes they do get pretty spread out in this car as well, actually, so hopefully that doesn't happen this time around. But yeah, one that all of these guys will be pretty familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if they've all driven this before, they'll be in on it as well. I think it's in Ring Runners this week, if I'm not mistaken, this 992. So if you do want to get yourself some free IR, I haven't checked recently, mind you, so that may have been last week. But yeah, it was in Ring Runners, I'm sure, over the last 2 weeks. At the same time for the iRacing officials. So if you did want to go and check that out, go and have a look on that one. But we're going to get up and running, going to get green very, very shortly. We can see who's going to be able to tame the 992 Cup cars.
Absolutely. We're on the VLN layout here, by the way, as we are using one more time with the Ferrari Challenge cars, pretty similar in speed to these later on this season. It'll be last week, before Duck Week, actually, at the end of August. Now up towards the start-finish line then for these guys at the front. Matt Green on the pole here, looking to take a race victory here at this round, and we are green flag racing. Here we go in towards turn number 1. Matt Green off to a very, very strong launch already here with Corey Stats and Dean Dilts side by side behind. That's late on the brakes from Dilts. Is he going to hit Green maybe into turn 1? Oh, he does! He's hit Green and Dilts goes for a spin. He's now right in front of the field and they will all avoid him. Hernandez and Sadler make their way out the pit lane. They won't get on the case quite quickly enough there to get into the side of him, thankfully. But Dilts spins around as he tries to attack Matt Green into turn 1.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the back of that and the replay run through it a little bit later on. But Green at the moment got out in front here. Corey Stas sitting in second, and Dave Mole, Dan Kosick in behind. Pat Messick in behind that. Stephen Johnson, Chase Petterjohn, Anthony Solomon. It's all getting a little bit interesting here as well. Stephen Johnson taking the lead in the AMS, of course. He's got half a second gap back to Chase Petterjohn. So these two are sure going to have a little bit of a ding-dong, but I am interested to see Matt Green opening up a gap here as well. So they've got to be careful not to let him get away.
Well, exactly. It's already a second here, and looking at this, he's got very, very good speed as well. Don't forget, he was 3rd place last week in the LMP1, 6th place overall in the GT4s the week before that. Only one finishing position outside of the top 10 so far this season, and that came in the FF 1600s a little bit earlier on. He was unfortunately in a bit of trouble that day. So, and of course, the fact he's missed a couple of rounds, as I mentioned earlier, that's why he's a bit further down in the standings. But now he's got an outside chance here, and this is a good chance to gain some points actually with Evan Kratwad not here. Corey Stas certainly making use of that. He's in 2nd place at the moment. Dave Mull doing so as well. The drivers 2nd and 3rd in the championship and 4th. All 2nd, 3rd and 4th in this race so far as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Green, Stas, Mole is going to be an interesting one. Craftfield, as you say, going to be losing points here. Once again, he's obviously got the drop weeks to contend with. So we've jumped on to the herd here of Pat Messick sitting in that 5th place, chasing down Dan Kosick's been very, very close as we're still running for the first time through lap 1 of Nords here at the moment as well. 1 of 4 as it always is. And now we're going to find out what sort of draft these guys are going to get. However, I think John Amico is running side by side at the moment. No, he's not actually.
Not quite. No, he's not far behind Dean Dilts, so on the way up towards Flugplatz here, round the right-hander and over the top of the hill. In the background, that's Matt Van Horn going wide, and Chase Petterjohn is going to roar through here. Van Horn gets that wrong. Maybe he went... Has he got damage there, Matt Van Horn? Petterjohn certainly has. He went off at the Hatzenback, did Chase Petterjohn, but Matt Van Horn has lost time. He's now outside of the top 10 as Dan Kosick gets into that 5th position, and he holds it tight, 4th place rather, holds it ahead of Messick, and then Stephen Johnson, who's in a good run of form in these last few weeks, looking for a way through on the way down to the bottom of the hill here towards Adenauer Forest now.
Yeah, they're not going to make it through here. Johnson's got any sense, he will just wait and wait and wait and let something happen. You can still see the guys in front. You can still see the likes of Mole, Corey Stas and Green, so they're not escaping up the road just yet. So for Stephen Johnson, he hasn't got to rush this at all. And I mean literally does not need to rush it. If he does, well, this could be a bit of a scary moment for him because he doesn't want to get involved in what's going to happen in front. And Pat is looking rightfully quick in behind Dan Kosick, so I'm expecting these two to carry on fighting for the rest of these laps.
They hopefully are for our entertainment, but let's wait and see. Mull and Staff's not that far apart, but Matt Green has already broken that slipstream. Not that the slipstream's a huge factor around in these cars actually. We speak about it a lot in other cars, as Solomon has gone off and lost a place to Dilts, and John Amico now right behind him. Don't think he grabbed the wall anywhere. He seems to be back up to speed again now, looking at his car speed. But yeah, out of all the cars that we have across the season, especially when you look at the next 2 weeks that are coming up, the MX-5 Cup cars and the Skip Barbers as well, these are not very slipstream heavy really, so breaking the slipstream is symbolic of getting over a second away from the car behind, but it's not really that crucial.
No, Pat there went in very, very quick. Very, very quick. Johnson's tucked in right behind him as well. No, you are right. They're not the most aerodynamic, right? Let's be real. They're not open wheelers. They're not MX-5s. For some reason, MX-5s have got... Oh, Pat is literally pushing him through Bergberg there. For some reason, the MX-5 draft is insane. But when you would have thought these would have been pretty good as well. But at the moment, it looks like Stephen Johnson is more the man on the move in behind these guys. Again, does he really need to, Ewan? But at the same time, he wants to.
He does. Of course, there are points on the line here, and he is risking quite a lot to get them. Inside line on the way towards the fast left-hander alongside Pat Mesek, the reigning AM Series champion. Up over the curb for Johnson. My word, that was risky. And he decides to back out of it in the end. And Mesek's actually got a good run on Kosick here, who's the one who's really defending here. Kosick, of course, an AM champion in seasons gone past as well. It is very, very close for these three at the moment. But I think, yeah, even though there is only a point on the line here, it's probably better for Johnson just stick behind for now. Yeah. It's a big risk trying to go through especially at the top of the hill there.
Yeah, we've got Kosick, who was, I think, season 9 AM champion. We got Pat,
maybe
8, was it 8 or 9, wasn't it? And then Pat, who was last season's champion. And then we got Stephen Johnson, who's wants to be this season's champion. So this could be 3 people in and around the same pace, and they've got the ever-looming Dilts as well. And he's driven exceptionally well this season. Obviously, bar the mistake at turn 1. I don't think it's long before he's got in and round gone out of these guys, to be blatantly honest with you. But he's got to get through. But how's he going to get through, and is he going to get through cleanly? That's more the question.
I think he's going to make pretty light work of this, but it might take him some time, especially when you're around this part of the circuit. Very, very tricky to get anywhere at this particular part. So get towards the end of the opening lap. Yeah, I think Kosick season 8, Sadler season 9, Mesek season 10. You know, I'm going off my memory only there, really, rather than actual standings, which I'll go and have a look at.
Though. I think you might be right. That's the scary thing. And if you've remembered that, I'll be well impressed. But I think you are right.
I'll be quite impressed with myself as well.
Oh no, Bella, you remember what you did yesterday. Let alone remember what you won 4 seasons ago.
Oh yeah, I nearly.
Oh, Dilts!
Well, the second time today, he's very nearly gone all the way around. Well, he went all the way around at turn 1. That time was gravel, in the gravel, out wide, and he drops down to 7th place. So Kosick, in the meantime, able to keep 4th. Messick and Johnson able to get away now from Dilts, but it won't be for long. Surely he'll be back with them again soon.
Yeah, I bet you it will be as well, because these guys are not leaving each other alone. Dan Kosick now under all sorts of pressure from Messick in behind, then Johnson in behind that. Into Kleins they go. They've got to look for the run out. It does look like Matt Green 1.96 seconds up front at the moment. Corey Stas is behind him as well. He's dropped a second to Dave Mole, but it's going to be here. How is this draft going to react? How are they going to react? And what sort of speeds are we going to be getting?
I just went back and looked, by the way. It was indeed Kosick, Sadler, and then Messick, so pleased with that. Of course, if you're wondering any further than that, because there were 7 seasons before that, we didn't have Pro and Am back then. It was just one big championship standing, but this is now going to bring us to a year of running with Pro and Ams. It was introduced for the final season in 2024 as Pat Messick comes through on Dan Kosick on the way down towards the end of the Jottingham here, and he is going to be through here. Kosick is, yeah, you're going to have to tuck him behind. So Messick through, and that's been coming for a while. Late on the brakes there. Can he slow down? No! Into the fence hard for Pat Messick. He did well to make the place, but then threw it away at the end. And D. Dilts gets one of the 3. Now he's going to get the second. I think Stephen Johnson on the way towards turn 1. Maybe he's going to get both here, as Dan Kosick is not quite tight to the left-hand side. There'll be 3 wide. Dilts on the outside line here, trying to take both of them. Oh, he's going to back out of it, though. Maybe flashbacks to last lap in towards turn 1 where he went for that spin.
Yeah, maybe, but he kind of stayed away from it. But boy, oh boy, was that exciting. 3 wide into turn 1. And Dilts, as I said, is looking quick. How quick? How far is Dilts going to be able to go? Corey Stas just crashed, unfortunately for him. He's just lost that position to Dave Mole. So Stephen Johnson with Dilts in behind. I don't think it's going to be long before Dilts gets up to the back of Johnson and goes through. But is he going to be able to catch Stas, who is just only up the road?
It's 5 seconds. It's a pretty big gap up to Stas. So see whether there's time to do that. I suppose at 3 laps it's more than possible. About 2 seconds a lap is not too much of a stretch around here. So just about half a second a lap on a normal circuit, maybe a bit less than that even. So yeah, it is possible. But Dilts has got to do the work of getting past Johnson though quickly, and if he lets this go on for too long, then he's going to get stuck behind for the entirety of the first section here. Looks up the inside into the final chicane. Yeah, this is last couple of corners now before the Hatzenbach, and there you go, onto the north side now. This is where it gets narrower. Dilts wasn't able to get it done on the Grand Prix circuit.
No, but What I am wondering is whether or not he'll be able to get the run through the Hats and back here as well, because there is an opportunity. If he can get a little bit closer, he might be able to come out and have a go into the right-hander coming, left-hander coming up. But is he there? No. Is he going to be able to get alongside before they get on the run down to Arenberg? Nip up here. He might be able to get the inside. No, he is going to be stopped there until the run out of Arenberg, or down to Arenberg, I should say.
Yeah, might well be down to Arenberg where that pass is made now. Maybe into Flugplatz. Hello. He's got a good run out here, and Johnson pulled to the left-hand side as if to say, well, I'm not going to fight you too hard for it if you want to go through, and there you go. So inside line for Dilts, on Johnson, and that is the end of that. So Stephen Johnson playing the smart game there. You've got to remember, he is still 5th, and as far as his closest championship rivals go, they are all behind him. Solomon is down and out already. We've already seen Matt Van Horn in 3rd, Sadler down in 5th place, down the last of the ones still running in this race. So Johnson's still in a good position here to extend his championship lead in the AM class.
Tell you what, if he does that again, he might be in a bad position because he ran a little bit wide there and nearly hit the gravel. David Anders has had a drama and sent himself back to pit lane and is now out. That is an interesting one. He crashed, he went in pit lane, he left pit lane and then crashed again. So I'm interested to see what that has happened there. I've marked that for one of our little views later on because there was a lot going on, and Anthony Solomon's had some drama and has also had to jump back to the pit. So there was a couple of moments of drama there, further back away from some of the action as them guys were towards the back end of the field.
Yeah, we saw the first one for Messick, didn't we, into the final corner, but what happened after that, don't know. He decided to just stay in the wall, really, as the other 3 came past him. It was quite exciting as he made the move down the hill, but it just broke too late. It's worth remembering in these cars, actually, very, very fast in a straight line. They're as fast as GT3s, and actually, if you get them in a slipstream of a GT3 on that long straight, you can actually pass them. You see it in the Nurburgring 24 hours sometimes, certainly in the iRacing version of it, in sort of late May, early June time. You see if they enter that dodging horse section at the right moment, if you like, right behind a GT3, sort of at the right distance, then they can draft straight past, back past again, and then be re-overtaken through the corners. It's the downforce where they do struggle a little bit more. And Messick didn't quite get on the brakes early enough because, again, their brakes aren't anywhere near as good as the GT3s either. As you mentioned, minimal assists here. And that includes no ABS in these cars, unlike in GT3s, which we used last season.
I thought he'd had some drama. John Amico had some issues. Dave Mole's just had an issue, and he's he's facing the wrong way. So John Amico and Dave Mole have both had just dramas at exactly the same point on the racetrack. And all of a sudden, with Amico, Sadler, 2.8 seconds, bang, was straight on him. So there was obviously something else that went on at the same time with John, and then obviously he just had that big old crash, so that's another situation. But Dave Mole will have a look back at the end as well. Dave, unfortunately, threw away what was potentially 2nd place, I believe he was in at that time.
He was 3rd, I think. Yeah, 3rd. So it's a podium he was throwing away. He was actually, oh no, you're right, he was 2nd, wasn't he? Because Stas made that mistake.
Yeah, Dave made the error, yeah.
Yeah. So, 2nd place it was. But now 6th, and that's a lot of time, by the way, to lose in one spin, I think. Dilts and Johnson now fighting for 3rd place after getting past Kosick, as we saw earlier, and Mull's issue now as well. So they've really gained out of this, but how much time did Mull lose in that one spin there?
He lost about 20 seconds, but he was facing the wrong way for a long period of time, yeah. He is...
Yeah. No, you're right, yeah.
It would have been about that, I think. What was he back to the leader? He's 21 seconds to the leader, so...
Yeah, he was a little bit behind the leader, so maybe just less than 20. That's still a long time to be losing in a spin. I guess that there's the spin itself, though, and then there's actually waiting for a bit of a gap. As you can see with the gaps up in front of him there, only 4 seconds back to Dilts. He barely would have... there would have barely been any time for him to stop spinning before Stas got past him. Then there's only 4 seconds to Dilts with Johnson right behind him. Kosick's only 3 seconds behind them. There's just not really the space to get that car turned back round again before Chase Petterjohn was there in 7th place with more than 10 seconds ahead of him.
Yeah, that's the thing. We talk about it like he's lost a lot of time, but by the time we'd probably look back, and see the situation he was in. And he's facing the wrong way. Let's not forget, he's got to get that car rotated. And we've seen people, rotate a car and then rotate it back around the other way and still face the same way that they were trying to rotate from. So, I can understand his hesitancy to try and get that car rotated round, because it's not an easy job. You know what I mean?
I saw an absolutely infuriating video the other day of somebody doing that in the real world on wet grass. It's absolutely infuriating.
Oh, was that the Ferrari?
I can't remember what kind of car it was.
Sure,
it was
the
a GT
Ferrari
World Challenge race in America.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Oh, it was. I was infuriated. I couldn't imagine what it's like for the driver, but I was also so mad at the driver for not just, they could not just not smash the throttle 100% at any stage, but whatever. He just decided to keep the throttle smashed, and he just kept going round and round and round and round and round. Oh God.
Yeah, I think I saw a video of it with Benny Hill music, and it was like, and it was just spinning. It was funny, but that's the thing. If real world drivers do it, then Dave Mull would have done it as well. So I'll have to see how bad Dave actually was on that one. I'm interested to see what happens going on with Dean Dilts and Corey Stas here, because that gap is coming down up front, and I'm wondering if Dilts is going to recover second place here. If he does, that'd be epic.
Yeah, it's certainly closing. Is there enough time? Well, 3.5 seconds. He's certainly, I mentioned he needs 2 seconds a lap. We'll see what the lap times are as he makes his way over the line here this time round. Second lap times of the day, of course, for these guys. 8:19.1 from Corey Stas. Oh, 13.7 from Dilts. Wow. That's really quick and faster than Matt Green as well. So he'll be wondering what would have happened if he hadn't have made that spin at turn number 1 and hadn't clattered into the side of Matt Green at turn 1.
Yeah, it does look like he would have done an amazing job. However, Chase Petterjohn has just had some drama going in through Tiergarten. So unfortunately for him, he might have had a problem. But Dean Dilts, Jesus, 8:13.7. That's mighty for Dean Dilts. He has come on massively this season.
It's been doing well.
Yeah, he's had his own little dramas. Don't get me wrong, and that's probably represented by the fact he sat 5th in the championship. But let's not forget, he won the ARX. What was he, 3rd in the TCRs, 2nd in the mini stocks. He wasn't here for the LMP1s. I think he was 3rd, 4th. I think it was in the GT4s.
Yeah,
he's had a good run, his Dilts, and I'm impressed this season. I like what he's doing in that with him, whether it's training or driver coaching or just practice or taking a different perspective to his racing. I don't know. I like what Dilts is doing. I'm impressed.
He's missed last week's rounds, you say, but the only other time he's finished outside the top 5 was the opening round of the season in the FF1600s. And that was a 7th place finish for him that day when Corey Stas took the victory. Evan Crutchroad's 2nd, and Logan McKenzie in his only round of this season so far finished in 3rd that day. So yeah, that's the only time he's actually ended this race off of the top 5. Looks like that's going to continue here today as well, because he's really catching Stas now. I mean, if he's catching at that sort of rate, what's that difference between those 2 lap times? What's 5.4? Something like that? That is a really big gap. And so, by the end of this lap, he's going to be crawling all over Stas.
Dude, he's just literally pulled in 2 seconds over the first part. Like, literally, it was 3.6 or something going over the line, and he's got it down to 1.6. Not the end of this lap, I reckon. And let's see where we're at the moment. We're on our run down into Arenberg. I reckon by the time we get to Bergwerk, he's going to be close or literally all over the back of him.
Yep. I just.
Are we going to agree for the first time, Mr. O'Leary?
Well, I mean, it's just maths, isn't it? It's hard to disagree at the moment. That's it's a very linear scale to this equation at the moment. I think this is going to be it's going to be very, very soon where this catch is made. Look at this. Dean Dilts is going to have the problem, though, of actually making the overtake. That's going to be the big thing here. Sadler's going to have the same on the back of Matt Van Horn, by the way, for 7th place. So a couple of things to try and keep an eye on here. Sadler trying to reduce that deficit to Stephen Johnson. They don't look close in the standings at the moment, but that's because Sadler has missed the last 2 rounds. If you take those 2 rounds away, I think he would still be leading the championship at the moment. So he wants to reduce that amount of points lost to Stephen Johnson as much as possible today.
Yeah, absolutely. He does, definitely. Scott Sadler down there with Matt Van Horn. Stephen Johnson's driven incredibly well this season, though. Another one that's done outstanding work. However, I'm trying to keep an eye on this. We're getting very, very close here. And at the moment, Dips is not far back whatsoever.
No, he's not. But it's just a case of where you actually make the pass here. Triple right-hander next. Miss, hit, miss through here. And both of them nailing it, actually. Just under 7 seconds behind Matt Green, who clearly is driving well out front as well for the moment. Stas, I don't think, can afford to really let Dilts through, unless he thinks that somehow he can pick up the pace and follow Dilts by just following his lines, which I'm not sure he can do. But unless he feels that way, then he's got to defend as hard as possible, because once he loses the place, he's not getting it back.
This is the thing. And yes, Stas might be able to follow Dilts for a little bit and may be able to stay in behind him. But it isn't about that with a car. I found that out as well. Is it going to go side by side into Bert? I did say Bervo. Look at that. Check me out. It isn't about that, because I could be in the same gear as a pro going into the same corner, but I might be half a second slower because of the accelerating and the braking and everything else all mixed in. So although, yes, I'm an advocate of following people if you're a slower car. And I agree with that, and I think you should. But it's all about throttle control and brake pressure and brake bias and how you're going to drag it through the corner and stuff like that. There's a lot more to it than that, and I think if Dilts goes past here, let's not forget, Dilts' last lap was still nearly 2 seconds ahead of Green's. Don't get me wrong, they've only got one more lap after this, and we know that Nords can bring great drama and great mistakes and great walls. I reckon if Dilts can clear him quick and have that last clean lap running at Matt Green, I do wonder how close he's going to get, you know?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to find out here. So far, no changes in those 2 battles that are going on out there on the circuit. Matt Van Horn and Scott Sadler are still as they were as well, although they are about half a minute behind these 2, fighting over 2nd place. And again, you can be as fast as you want, really, in comparison to a driver in front, but that doesn't mean that making the actual overtake itself is going to be easy. And actually, Stas fighting back a little bit. A couple of attempts gained just as they came out the carousel there, up through Hoeract. I think it was a bit of an error from Dilts, but needs to get back in the rhythm here, because he's lost those few attempts, and his big overtaking chance at the end of the lap is slipping away from him if he's not too careful.
Yeah, he has to be as well. It's a company who said one thing catching and another thing overtaking. And that that was about as true as a word you could say on the Nords.
Oh, yeah, well, it does apply anyway, but certainly applies here.
Oh, no, come on, it's harder here than any other racetrack.
Monaco?
Yeah. I said racetrack.
Yes.
Not a street circuit pretending, you know what I mean? And the only way they're going to make Monaco interested is take the railings away and stick hay bales again and see how many end up in the canal.
Oh dear, I'm not sure I want to see that.
I would, because it's boring. It's a boring race. I don't like Monaco. Hey, so and so's on first. Yay! Hey, the same so and so won the race. I can't imagine why.
Yeah, it is a bit of an issue, the lack of overtaking at Monaco. I'm not sure drowning people though is the solution to excitement.
All left work cars at Monaco only, no barriers, hay bales only, and they get a free eject button with a parachute on the back. So as they're heading into the water, they can just press the eject button and it shoots them up in the air.
What, like they're in a jet?
Yeah, gives them a free eject button.
And parachute, bang, straight in the air.
Yeah. On the water, press, ping, off he goes up in the air, parachutes down. See, amazing. See, I've got the full design idea in my head. It'll make it so much more exciting.
What's a nightmare?
Oh, come on, you would want to watch that.
They'd be so cautious, though, because they don't want to be in the water. It'd be even worse, I think.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the first one to get you get an extra 20 points if you put somebody in the water.
Oh dear, yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, Dilts is close here on the way to the end of the straight, and now's his chance. Stas has got to do his best to keep him behind here, and he has done. His exit off of Garmacott was good enough, and he keeps Dilts behind. I mentioned earlier, he has to keep him behind for the entirety of this, otherwise he's just not going to get the place back, but he might well have to give it up now. That was close as Sadler drafts past Matt Van Horn on the way down the Doddinger back to the front of the field where the leaders side by side, second and third position, Dean Dilts getting through on the inside line of Stas, but he can't afford to let this happen, Stas. Dilts, of course, span here on lap 1, and Stas is going to go for the cutback instead and go side by side. No, Dean Dilts has the place, and it's going to be hard to get it back off him now.
Oh, he's not going to get it back. No offence, Corey. Love you, but never going to happen. They were side by side going in through Tiergarten, and we just caught the back end of what went wrong. So that's what I was. Yeah, he's got. He's got to come in. Well, and we'll have a penalty for speed. I think he's annoyed. So something must have gone on because they were side by side, and I just flicked back to these two, but I probably should have stayed there.
Are speeding penalties affected by the amount you sped by? Because that's got to be the biggest penalty in the world, in case.
I don't really know. I don't know if it's just a standard stop and hold, is it?
Yeah, I think it is. I guess that's maybe why it's so large, so that that there is actually no way you could ever gain any time by speeding into the pit lane. Because if it was just a 5-second stop and hold, you could not bother with the speed limit and actually have the 5-second penalty, and it still gains time. So yeah, that's why it's 40 seconds, I suppose. And it's not scaled to the speed. Sadler, though, retires, and that, unfortunately, is the third week in a row where he's going to finish behind Johnson. Admittedly, he was not here for the last two at all, but this is starting to get worrying for his championship, and Johnson's starting to pull ahead.
Yeah, Stephen Johnson, 7.5. Come on, dude. We got to be honest here as well. Would anybody really begrudge Stephen Johnson the win in the AM Championship? He has done so well this season. So well, in and around the top 5 every single race, apart from, I believe it was the ARX. And even then, I don't think he was too far away. And he's done so well. And I wouldn't begrudge if he wrapped this up before Duck Week. I really wouldn't. I think that he deserves where he's at the moment. And I think he deserves the praise that he's going to get because he has done awesome, Stephen Johnson. And Sadler, unfortunately, dramas of his own. But, I wouldn't begrudge Stephen Johnson the win in the AMs.
No, I don't think there'll be people trying to take it off him here for this season, that's for sure. But yeah, this is, and again, I actually think it's a lot. It's very hard for him to actually sew it up before Duck Week, so I don't think he'll quite manage that. I think he will have a maybe nervy final race, but he's looking good for doing it at the moment. Just trying to work out amongst myself about if we applied 2 drop rounds to sort of take away Sadler's non-starts, where they would be. It would take away Johnson 40 points from Johnson, which would put him 15 behind, not 40, sorry, 39 it would take away from Stephen Johnson. So that would mean he'd be 14 behind Sadler at the start of today if they had 2 drop weeks applied. Obviously, it's 3 weeks applied for every season. That's not the Christmas season, where it's a bit shorter. But yeah, it's 2 weeks right now that Sadler's missed. He'd be 14 points behind coming into this, Johnson. But, he'd be scoring 27 points as a race score here. 3 points for winning the AM class as well right now as Stas continues to push to try and get past Dilts. This is a big haul for Johnson. And I think, actually, with the drop weeks applied now, he's starting to get ahead of Sadler. He's always been the total points leader, but now he might start to pull ahead with the drop weeks applied as well after this result for Scott Sadler.
Yeah. Oh, Dilts, get it back on. Don't do that on the final lap. Do you know, I'm a little bit surprised here because the pace Dilts had with that 8.13, I would have thought he would have been getting back up to Matt Green. But the thing is, I didn't realise that last time out, Dilts done an 8.13.7. Matt Green did an 8.13.8. So it was only a tenth slower, and that could be why the gap hasn't come down as much as I think we both thought it was going to, because of that 8.13 when I think it was Matt Green had like an 8.16 or 8.17 or something, and Stas was 8.19. So I think that's a bit of a shock, but I think Matt Green has upped his pace a bit. from the last lap and is now in the 8:13s as well. So for Dilts, he's only got to really worry about Corey Stas.
Yeah. And that is that he certainly will be doing at the moment as they now make their way round the long left-hander at the top of the hill here through Kesselchen now. That slightly sharper left-hander, although it's still absolutely flat out. Stas has stayed with Dilts very, very nicely here in these last few moments, and he's got straight back past him again. Dilts driving down the grass almost to let him back through, as if to say, well, that's fine for now, but I'm going to get past you again on the back straight on the run towards the Tiergarten for the very final time. This is the last lap, of course, and Stas has done an excellent job staying with Dilts here. Last lap, by the way, he lost 3.1 seconds to Dilts over the course of lap 3. Over 5 seconds the lap before that. He has upped his pace here massively to stay with Dean Dilts in this battle per second.
I do wonder, and I've been in this situation at Nords, where I've been the quicker driver, but due to the draft, the guy behind me just won't go away, even though he is slower. Now, no offense, again, I'm doing well here this evening. I do wonder if Dilts kind of was hoping that Stas wouldn't be able to use the draft to stay with him. Yes, it probably didn't help that Dilts has been on the grass a couple of times, but I'm thinking if this was just a 20, say, like rally stage, so, you know, Green went off and then Dilts went off 20 seconds later and Stas went off 20 seconds later, whether or not Stas would be able to get this close to him because of the situation with the draft, I think it would be Dilts being able to go to Green. And I'm just wondering whether or not Dilts is kind of sitting there a little bit frustrated that Stas has now got through and he's only got the run coming out of the final couple of corners, of course, down into through Galgenkopf and down onto the Dottinger Ho and into Tiergarten, where he can only make that move now. So, yeah, I wonder for Dilts if there's just a tad of frustration in all of this.
Yeah, maybe. He's running in behind Corey Stas. He's close enough, but I think he's trying almost not to be too close right now. There is a point where if you come off of Galgenkopf too close to the driver in front of you, then you actually can't slingshot past. But there's also a perfect distance for being able to not get past too early and then repassed on the way down towards the end of the straight as well. Yeah, this is all tactics, and you can see them both figuring out what's the right distance here. Stas needs as big a gap as possible. Dilts needs that sweet spot really to be able to get past, but for Stas to have no response also on the way to the final braking zone of the race.
Yeah, coming in now through Galgenkopf, dropping down onto the Dottinger Ho. Matt Green out in front by 8 seconds, unless he does something dramatic. I don't know what he's going to do. But then again, we haven't seen it before. I think it was Hightower or like that. I think put it in the wall in the final corner. So there we go. Let's hope that Matt Green doesn't do that. Oh, these two jockeying around. Oh, Stas did that on purpose. I do wonder whether or not he's going to start regretting it, though. They're coming down now, up to the Bilston. Dilts, Stas, and I don't think Stas is close enough.
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of weaving going on the back straight, but Dilts has got enough here, surely. Stas has tried to do the get past and then come back past in towards the final corners. He's not quite far enough alongside, and so he's going to have to stay behind. Out front, though, Matt Green is going to win here in the Porsche Cup cars by nearly 10 seconds in the end. A great performance from Green after his podium last week in the LMP1s. He's getting his season back on track with only his third top 5 of the season. Dilts goes over the line in second. Stas ends up third. And it's Stephen Johnson who, in the background, will come over the line to win in the AM class. 4th place as well. 30 points at least to his name. Maybe 31 plus points for him at the end of this race. That is going to move him into the lead, not only of the total points championship, which of course he's already leading, but when you start to apply the drop weeks, you start to see Stephen Johnson ever further in front now in the AM class.
Yep. I can't see anybody getting past him. I've got to be honest. If he keeps driving like this for the rest of the season, I think he's wrapped this up. I think I'd be very surprised if he hasn't wrapped it up before we even get to that week. I reckon if I put money on it now, maybe if he can keep here like he is at the moment, maybe by the SR8s. That's my prediction.
Okay. That's 3 rounds. Even after that one, I presume you mean? With
No.
2 rounds to go after that.
Yeah, 2 rounds to go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe. I still think it's going to come down to the last day, but you never know. We will find out, of course, over the coming weeks. Matt Green wins in the Pro Class
Hold on. Sorry, problem.
Wins by 9 seconds, about ahead of Dean Diltz with Corey Stas rounding out the podium. Stephen Johnson with that great win, as I say, in fourth. Jan Kosick then finishes in the top 5, ahead of Dave Mull. Matt Van Horn and Chase Petterjohn also get the podium places in the AM class. John Amico a further couple of minutes back. Scott Sadler retired a lap from the finish, but he should get a point for at least finishing the first 2 laps. David Andes, Pat Meshach and Anthony Solomon rounding out the field. Many of them not getting very far through that race at all, unfortunately, here today. Not too many replays to have a look through, but we will do now at the end of the race as always.
Lap 1, turn 1.
Yeah, Dean Diltz is probably where he lost this race, actually. Had the speed to challenge Matt Green, but look at this. Tight line. He's outbroken himself there, really. Matt Green can't do anything. And, well, once he's hit the brakes, neither can Dean Diltz. Just wait for the field to come past him.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all he is able to do. Now, I'm going to jump down a little bit here because Anthony Solomon wasn't quite the first time he'd been off the track. But I'm wondering what went on here. See, he's got a round running the wall. Oh, no. Ooh. I think he's broke his car there because he goes back to pit lane at some point. Might be it here, actually. He might do it again. Didn't have a good... Oh, there we go.
Oh, no.
Ouch.
Okay. That'll be the end of it. The rear left suspension there, you can see immediately, totally broken. So he's not even going to get that out of the wall. There you go. That'll be the end of that. This was Meshach down into the final corners. Just brakes too late. You can see how long the braking zone is here, by the way. You see how long they're on the brakes for, and it still wasn't early enough for Pat Meshach to avoid the wall.
No, unfortunately, he goes back into the pits. I do want to have a look what comes out after that, but this is Corey Stas, where he lost that place. Oh, back end's coming round.
Too fast.
Yeah, all day. Right, so Pat just come out of pit lane.
Yeah, this is the bit we didn't see. So why did he... drops it straight away and has decided I've had enough, in fact. And so Meshach goes back to pit lane, and that was the end of him. Dave Hernandez didn't get to the end of this race either. This is into the hats and back. Too late on the brakes. Oh, spins and hits the wall hard. Wow.
That was really weird. He seemed to grind the wall like a skateboarder on 4 wheels, didn't he? Watch. The front end, he kind of almost grinds it. Look. And then he's just going to slide down the wall and then come back on again. That's very bizarre. I haven't quite seen one like that before. Unfortunately for him. But yeah, there was a few over lap 2 that went a little bit dramatic. This is Chase Petterjohn. I think we spoke briefly about this. And we said he just had a moment. And he just keeps it out of the barrier. Right, the one I did want to see is the Dave Mull facing the wrong way. And this is it.
This is it going to be curb on the outside? Oh, he's quite deep already. Oh, no, it's not curb. He's already gone by then. Oh, dear. So that crash went on for a long time, actually, which is part of the problem. Now he's got to put it into first. He'll wait for a couple of 3 cars to go through, and now he can go. Just waiting for that gap in the traffic. It's going to be a 3. No, it's not. It's just a nice turnaround. Nicely done in the end from Mull. It's just the crash that took quite a long time. Yeah,
and then John Amico was literally at the same time. I think we just about caught this live. Goes into the right-hand wall and breaks the car, unfortunately, for John on that one. Sadler, last lap. Now, this was where I said they would just go inside. They must have gone side by side, but it does look like Scott may have done this on his own here. Oh, he did.
It's almost the same thing Meshach did, although he hit the wall less hard. He still had to come into pit lane. Oh, there you go. He might have done some more damage there, trying to rejoin there, half on the curb, half on the track. And, well, there doesn't seem to be too much suspension damage, but he's decided he's had enough anyway.
Yeah, 4th gear through pit lane. Somewhat frustrating. Chase Petterjohn is the last drama we had on the final lap, but Chase unfortunately had a couple of dramas over this last time. It does look like he's got damage on that front right already. Oh.
On the brakes.
Oh no, you're going.
Cars don't have good brakes.
No, they don't. Unfortunately. And there is it.
Yeah, that's it for the replay run through this time around. A decent round, actually. I think in the last couple of times we used the Porsche Cup cars in the last 2 seasons, it's been pretty quiet race in the second half. But, we had some good battles to keep us entertained right to the very end, notably with Dilts and Stas there fighting right to the line.
Yeah, exactly. And they made it interesting for us. And Dilt's made it interesting. And I'm going to see how he gets on in the championship, because I think he's going to give himself a good boost up to Dan Kosick and Evan Krautfeld. And I don't think he's going to be that too far away from Dave Mole. So, can Dilts do it when we go into next week? And of course, next week we've got the best one, is the MX-5 here at the North short layout, of course.
Yeah, I should just say before we leave, by the way, if you're wondering why Evan Krautfeld is not here today, unfortunately got diagnosed with appendicitis just before the race on Wednesday, yesterday, as we're recording this yesterday. So hopefully he doesn't mind me saying that. He did post it in the Discord, but yeah, it's hopefully he gets better soon. Unfortunately, we may not see too much more of him this season as expected. He'll probably be resting for a little while, but hopefully he gets better soon, and we can see him back on the track, if it is going to be next season or in the future, of course, as soon as possible. But hope everything's okay for him. Either way, that is why we didn't see him tonight. And yeah, either way, we still had a good round of racing. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in here for this 7th round of the Porsche Cup cars in the Tail Racing Ring Runners here for season 11. We'll be back next week with the MX-5 Cup cars, the first round of 4 in August, as we get towards the very end of season 11. Make sure you join us for that. The MX-5 is going to be very, very exciting indeed. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside James Parfitt until we see you next week for those MX-5s. It's goodbye for now.